This video is to solve linear equations with those dreaded fractions. You know, we love those so much. But the truth is, math people don't really love it either. So we figure out ways to get around it. And so we have a problem today, 3/4 x minus 1 equals 7/5. And we're going to use a technique of multiplying by the least common denominator to eliminate the fractions altogether and then solve the linear equation as we have in the past. All right, so first step, we need to figure out what is the least common denominator, or LCD. Let's look and see what denominators we even have in the problem. So we have the 4 here and the 5. Okay, so we have a denominator of 4 and 5. Now, I can give you the trick to doing this. I don't know if that it's a trick, but basically what you can do to find the LCD is to multiply the denominators together and divide by any numbers in common. Multiply the denominators together. So if we did that, 4 times 5 is 20. And then divide by any numbers in common. Well, does 4 and 5 have any numbers in common? Any factors in common? Answer is no. That would be 20 for the LCD because we can't divide by anything. Now, let me give you, this is a side example. You can totally fast forward this part if you want. But if you had the denominators 4 and 6, if you multiply those together, 4 times 6, you get 24, but that is not the least common denominator. It is a common denominator. It is true, but it's not the least common denominator. So we need to take that extra step and divide by what is in common between 4 and 6. So what number is a common factor between 4 and 6? And I think everybody knows it's 2. So if we divide by 2, that's going to give us 12, which 12 is the LCD. Okay, so that is an easy way to find the LCD. There are many other ways. Feel free to look up other videos to do that. I've taught it many ways before, but this seems to be the easiest. Okay, what are we going to do with this 20? Now, you could right now go ahead and multiply by 20, but I think it's also really important, especially if you're going into further courses, to actually understand how to get a common denominator between all of the terms. So we have 3/4 x, and we need it to turn into a denominator of 20. So that means we're going to have to be multiplying something by this 3/4 x. Okay, so here's the way I think of this. If you already have a 4 in the denominator, what do you need to multiply that 4 by to get 20? Or 20 divided by 4 gives you what? Okay, and I think everybody knows it's 5. So we need to multiply this 4 by 5 down in the denominator to get that 20 that we're looking for. Here's the thing though. You can't just multiply the denominator by 5 or otherwise you've kind of messed up the whole equation. So we need this to multiply by a factor of 1. So if I have to multiply the denominator by 5, I also have to multiply the numerator by 5. Okay, and we'll see that 20 in our next step. Now we're going to our next term. We have to do the same thing. So this is going to be our 1, and we're going to multiply it by something. Well, remember 1 is just 1 over 1. What do I multiply 1 by to get 20? This feels kind of obvious, right? It's 20. Okay, so we're going to multiply the bottom times 20 and the top times 20. And a lot of people say, well, why do we have to do anything with the 1? Because it's not a fraction. You're right, but it needs to be included in this, okay? Anytime we're doing something, we're doing it to all of the terms, okay? Equals 7/5, and we need this to have a denominator of 20. What do I multiply 5 by to get 20? Or 20 divided by 5 is what? That's 4. So 5 times 4 on the bottom is 20, but if I multiply 4 on the bottom, I have to multiply 4 on the top. Okay? Now, let's simplify this and actually figure this out for the next step. So again, when you're multiplying fractions, you're multiplying straight across. So 5 times 3 is 15 over 5 times 4 is 20. Yay! Okay, we did that part right. Yay! x minus 1 times 20 is 20 over 1 times 20 is 20 equals 7 times 4 is 28 over 5 times 4 is 20. All right, this is fabulous. Now that we have all of our denominators the same, we can do this special step of multiplying the entire equation by the least common denominator. So what that means is that I can take this whole thing and multiply by 20. What does that do? What does that do? Okay, that means that if I say 20, let's pretend it's over 1 because it is. Let's say if I have 20 times this part, the 15 over 20, this 20 on top and this 20 on bottom, cancel. So you're really just left with 15x. And guess what? In the next part, 20 times that cancels the bottom. And you're just left with 20. And the next part, 20 times that cancels the bottom. And you're just left with 28. Okay? So what essentially you're doing is by getting like terms, common denominators, then you can multiply by that common denominator and all of your denominators go away because they cancel out. And you're applying that 20 to each one. So it's not like you're unbalancing the equation because you're applying it evenly, which is why we needed this one right here to have a denominator of 20 so that it could cancel out too. Otherwise, it would mess it up a little bit. Okay. Now, we love this equation that's produced out of this because it's just a linear equation that we've been doing and it has no fractions and we love that. So we're going to solve this by adding 20. That's 15x. That's going to cancel, equals 48. And we're going to divide by the 15. Now, it's okay if your answer has a fraction in it because, I mean, my goodness, it had fractions in the problem. So what does this end up giving us? By reducing, we get 16 over 5. And again, go back and watch some of my other videos. You want this completely reduced, but that is our solution to this linear equation with fractions.